We got budget at Ignister for you guys today. We have a Salamangreat list that took home a regional top 4, baby. And we have a virtual world brave list for you guys. Let's go dig on into these, shall we? I'll be like the 30% of you guys. Come on, 70% of you guys are the only ones that are subscribed. Show me some love by smashing the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys know I sound more awesome content. The first list we're going to be looking at here is a budget at Ignister list. Now, what I find very interesting about this is budget is a subjective term, ladies and gentlemen, and it was specifically budgeted, or the video was specifically made for this from Mystic Mine Shrine, walking, like I said, a third place here. But the first thing somebody's going to go is, well, Ash Blossoms aren't, they're expensive. Nibiru's are expensive. Imperms are expensive. Yes, I understand this, but the big thing when you look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, ladies and gentlemen, is if you can get a deck for about $100 to play the game, or if you have your generic hand traps, one of the biggest advantages in a format like this is once you have the staples, all of the engines are cheap, minus Brave. All right, like, what, you can get an entire Ignister core for, like, what, $10? All right, so once you have like generic staples, your advantage to picking up the rest of this deck, it's nothing. All right, this is, I will agree that this is budget, all right, outside of, your standard hand traps. But if you're playing this game, you probably should already be focusing in on these. So for a core basic of an engine, yeah, this was wonderful. So this got third place out of their event, and I got to give it to them. A lot of people have kind of tossed the arrival at Ignister out the door, and we're in a format right now where if you can establish this, you're in a super amazing position. A lot of decks still cannot out this, but once again, we're in a heavier hand trap format. This is one of the heaviest hand trap formats that we've ever had in the game's history here. So you're going to have a harder time, your island gets like popped off or something. You get ashed at a very critical time, even to a lesser extent like a Droll and Lockbird. We have effect veilers lurking around corners. You see what I mean? Like when you have these large amounts of hand traps that are just such a dominating force on the format, a lot of players out here will in fact struggle to kind of establish things. So that's like your trade-off in this format is, unfortunately, hand traps make this deck harder to play. But you know what? There will be a time that this deck will come back in its full glory. So we have triple copies of a Chi-Chi at Ignister. The fire one, remember the fire and the light ones are both one card full extension combos on this. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, one copy of Baruru. We have one Don Mari at Ignister, one copy of the Doshin at Ignister. Then we have one copy of Doyan. And then we have triple copies of Effect Filler. We're playing one copy of Hayari. And a lot of people don't like Hayari, I understand, but it is one more name in the book for this deck. We have triple copies of Nibiru. We have triple copies of Picari, one copy of Eye Contact, triple copies of I Meet You, one copy of Idol Reborn, one Called by the Grave, triple copies of Cynet Mining Machine, one copy of Dimensional Fissure, one copy of Fighting Spirit, triple Ignister Island, one Terraforming, and we're playing one IQ. Okay, and then we have triple copies of Infinite Permanence and one copy of Macro Cosmos. Down here in the extract, we have one Transcode Talker, one Zeroboros, one The Arrival at Ignister, one Splashy Mage, one Security Dragon, one Link Spider. We have one Lingaribo, one Fire Phoenix, one Dark Templar, two copies of Dark Infant, one Cyber's Wicked, one Light Dragon, one Wimpegasus, and one Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Side deck here, we have triple Artifact Lancia, one Cyclone, triple Dark Roller, triple Drag Down, one Arby's Feathers are triple evenly matched, and one copy of Red Rebuto here, wrapping up a third place budget at Ignister. Next up is, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Salamangreat list for you guys today. Now, what's so great about this was this went all the way to a top 4 finish out of a regional. All right, so this was on the European side of things, which I think is very interesting. But look, it's sales ban. So declare one card name. For the rest of this term, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects of that card name with the original name as a declared card. And then the same restriction applies to you, but for the rest of the duel. You know what's great about this card in Salad, right? Boom. All right, you declare Nibiru. Oh, I can't get Nibiru anymore. Oh, any sort of hand trap that you think your opponent would have, any sort of destroying effect that they would actually have for you is null and void, ladies and gentlemen. You just get to call it out. And that's why this card is such a powerhouse force. Well, Robbie, if you call Nibiru, you can't play for the rest of the game. Do you see Nibiru in this deck, ladies and gentlemen? A lot of people literally do not understand that this card is based on the premise of stopping things that the opponent has. All right, we'll just play Prohibition. It doesn't. I mean, Prohibition can be stopped. All right, they just Cosmic Cyclone or something like that. You're done, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 copies of Ghost Spell in the Haunted Mansion, 2 copies of Ghost Oga, triple copies of Lady Debug, 1 Falco, 2 copies of Foxy, 1 Gazelle, 2 copies of Jack Jaguar, and triple copies of Spin Spin. Then we have 1 Called by the Grave, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, triple Silent Minding, 1 Dizizes, 2 copies of Salamangreat Circle, 1 Sanctuary, triple copies of Salesman, 2 copies of Will, triple copies of Infirm, 1 Rage, and 2 copies of Roar. Down here in the extract, we have 1 copy of everybody's favorite Update Jammer, 1 Transcode Talker, the 1 Splash Mage, triple Wolf, 2 Heat Leo, triple copies of Balinix, 1 Hita, 1 Apo, 1 Axis Machine, and 1 copy of the Mirage Talio. Side deck here we have 2 Lancia, 2 DD Crow, 1 Pinkertops, 2 Token Collector, 1 Harpies Feather Duster, triple Lightning Storm, triple copies of Anti-Smell Fragrance, and 1 copy of Red Reboot here, wrapping up Salamangreat. Now, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, Solid does look like it struggles in a lot of this format, but when you have a card like Salesman that a lot of players have kind of just thrown away and discounted here, ladies and gentlemen, you get more options to explore. And you know what? Just being able to stop your opponent from having an interaction point with you absolutely seems perfectly easy to me. Next up here is Virtual World Brave. Oh, man. So many people have been exploring the option trees for VW this format. Like, between this and the Punk version, you've seen pretty much the same interesting story this format. You know, everybody's just setting up Omni Negate and going. Well, free token, Omni Negate, it's all free, honestly. The thing I find very interesting about this list, though, in general, was we have reduced the package down to a 2-2. Now, it can feel like 3-3 can be a little bit bulky in terms of numbers, and I get that. But the other thing here is we've opted to actually play evenly matched in the main deck here. Now, you could very easily, hear me out here, you could, if you don't want to play evenly in this deck, you can take them out and play the more respective copies of this. Or if you wanted to explore another option to play like a third E-Tele or something, you can do that. But this is a pretty interesting tech option nonetheless here. So we have 1 copy of Artifact Scythe. You gotta love the Scythe lock, ladies and gentlemen. It's the good stuff. 2 copies of Evenly Matched. 2 copies of Nyan Yan. We have triple copies of Lily. Triple copies of Lulu. Triple copies of Lala. Triple copies of Gigi. And then, of course, we have 1 Griffin Rider. 2 copies of Water Enchantress. 1 Called by the Grave. 1 Draco Back. 2 copies of Emergency Teleport. 1 copy of Yield Faithful Adventure. 1 copy of Foolish Bro. 2 copies of Rite of Armies here, 1 Upstart Goblin. We have triple copies of Virtual City Kowloon, triple copies of Quinglong, 2 copies of Evenly Matched, 2 copies of Chuche, and 1 copy of Zuan Wu. And in the extract, we have 1 Fan, 1 copy of the Breaksword, 1 Gaia Dragon, 1 Pyren, 1 copy of Sky Thunder, 1 copy of M7, and 1 Beatrice. Then we have 1 Senshin, 1 Jiu, 1 Stardust Charge, 1 Croco Shark, 1 Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, 1 Coral Dragon, 1 Baron de Fleur, and 1 Mud. And inside deck here we have 2 Droll and Lockbird, 1 Nibiru, 2 copies of Cosmic Cycle, 2 copies of Crossroad Detonator, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, triple copies of Lightning Storm. Then we have Gravity Collapse. He holds stop the opponent from synchroing the card. Back at it again. We have 1 copy of Red Reboot here, wrapping up this chunk of pretty interesting deck profiles for you guys. So guys, what do you think about these lists? Please leave a comment about, tell me what you think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.